Good morning, guys. It's not quite so early as some of my other videos, but it is. It's 7:30. The kids are off. We have come back from a really busy weekend away with the kids' sport, and now it's just a matter of kind of getting life back in order. Oh my goodness. If you haven't joined me before, I just want to say a very big welcome. There's been quite a few new subscribers, and it's just been super lovely. I'm loving having you all involved in everything that we do, so please stick around. Today I'm just going to take you through things that we're doing I'm doing a bit of a tidy up, obviously, because look, my house is a tip. But that aside, what else am I doing? That there's food for the chickens, in case you're wondering. Not food for me. It's all our leftovers. So what am I doing? Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a video all about getting ready. Like you, I'm sure, like me, are not immune to the crazy of the world. And I try to keep away from it, but it's just there all the time. Go to work, people are talking about it. Walk in the door, my husband's like, oh my goodness, you'll never guess what happened today. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I don't want to know. I really don't want to know. But burying one's head in the sand is also not a very helpful strategy. So I'm going to take you through some parts of just my normal day and some parts that I'm doing specifically in response to just the way of the world at the moment. And I read a lot of history books, a lot of historical fiction, not an actual history book. I haven't picked up an actual history book probably since seventh form when I finished history at the end of school. But I love to learn how other people lived, and we are not the first humans to go through tough times, and we won't be the last humans to go through tough times. I think we've just had this lovely little bubble of, in the Western world anyway, just this super lovely bubble of, I don't even know how to describe it. Yeah, just all sorts of things that make us feel like, not that we're invincible, but just that, life is good and this is how it always is and we should always be eternally happy. And, I do think we should be safe. I don't think that's too much to ask as a human being. And there are a lot of people who are not safe in the world at the moment. And I don't think that's okay. I'm not entirely sure what contribution I can ever make to that, if any. But I guess, one of the benefits of being in New Zealand is that we are far away from many, many conflicts, which is just the luck of the draw, isn't it? And I do feel lucky, but also being far, far away, we are, I guess, going to be affected greatly by price hikes. Things are going to get more and more and more and more expensive. And when you have to get them to the complete other side of the world, it becomes even more so. We also have a weak currency, so our buying power is not very good. So I'm kind of thinking, do you know what, in the next year or so, I would like to think all this stuff would go away, but it's not going to, I don't think. We could be in a position where we are priced out of a lot of things that we currently can afford with a degree of ease. So for me, I just think the more local I can live in every single way, the better. Now, that being said, these are going in the washing machine, just in case you were wondering what on earth I was doing with my taking out my shoelaces. That being said, I have set up my life in a certain way for this year. I've committed to some overseas trips, one of which I'm taking in 10 days or so. So I've committed to some overseas travel. I've committed to actually bringing some people to New Zealand from overseas. I've already committed to doing that for someone. I've committed to a lot of things, and then life has changed. So we didn't have our batch when I committed to these things, so I was feeling a lot more cashed up. Now I've spent a big chunk of our capital buying another house. I am feeling squeezed. You'll know if you've watched me before that we live on a tiny budget, even though we make more money. And the reason we live on that tiny budget is so that we can invest the rest, because we want safety and security for ourselves and our family, and we are hoping for an early retirement. You know, watch this space, who knows? We are fit and able, so if we need to keep working, it will be fine, but that is not the dream. So I'm just going to crack on. I'm going to get my washing hung out. I'm going to get my dirty old sneakers in the wash, and then let's catch up and see what I'm doing to kind of start to prep a little bit. Not crazy prepper. I'm not digging a bunker and buying firearms, but just being prepared in a, I don't know, 1930s housewife kind of a way. Catch you guys soon. Hi, Chicky Licks. They're coming in through the fence now. They're like, where are you? That's right, I'm bringing you some treats. Hey, tuk-tuks. Hey, chickies. Hey, tuk-tuks. Prepping the garden and harvesting what I've grown, I guess, are one of the biggest pleasures I have in life. I love being in the garden. I love eating things that I've grown myself. But I guess when you're preparing for bad times, it has a little bit more meaning. These potatoes, for example, have been a bit of a waste of time this year. They have not produced nearly as many potatoes as I would have thought. Yet they've taken up an entire big garden bed. I'm going to have to be smarter going forward. So I think I really need to go back to some of my books that talk about crop rotation and upskill myself a little bit. Rather than gardening just for fun, what if I need to garden really to feed myself and my family? How will that look different? I think I need to look at what crops I'm going to grow. What are the things that are absolutely necessary for survival, and kind of start off from there. Go, okay, what does a survival garden look like? And then what are some of the more fun things to grow? So this is what I've managed to do. Found a sock, that was a good thing. I've harvested the potatoes and then taken just the silver beet and kale, and if it was growing in a random spot in this garden, I've just planted it in a row. So it looks all nice and healthy today. By tomorrow it kind of will wilt because I've moved them all. Don't know if you can really see that so well, but they're in a reasonably kind of 2 straight rows. There's tons of kale and silver beet over there, but I just don't feel like wasting any food at the moment. I have got a few little ones and I'm just going to take them down to the chickens now and deliver those. So here's my greens that I'm going to give them. Oops, sorry guys, got a bit of a fright. So that's just the bits in the garden that I can't really do anything with. They don't actually love the fresh greens, I wouldn't say, but it's good for them, isn't it? So today is basically just a big harvest day. I also have to head out and get some seedlings to plant. I haven't done any seeds, but crikey, just the insane way the world is just makes me want to have a really robust garden. I think if ever there was motivation for keeping small animals and growing a bit of food, it's this geopolitical instability. You know, we have climate instability, we have geopolitical instability. Makes me feel unstable in my head. So this is how I manage it. Now I've been collecting chicken poo. Oh, that's big. It's a decent sized spider, not if you're from somewhere that's not New Zealand. Can you see there? We'll find a new home for him or her. Let's go down here and see if I can just... Where'd you go? I'll pop that upside down. That will give that spider a bit of time to find a good hiding place before a bird sees it. So this poo I need to pop on the garden. So compost, well, kind of like fertilizer, isn't it? So we hear that there's going to be massive chemical fertilizer shortages because of the American attack on Iran. And wow, what can you do? You should make your own compost. That's what you should do. So I don't actually make compost. I just direct dig into the ground. So whether or not it's vegetable scraps or whatever, I just make a little trench and put it in. And that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm just going to clear a bit of garden and add the chicken poo. So that's my work. Chicken poo is dug into that little bit, and that's where I'm hopefully going to go and get some broccoli and cauliflower seedlings today, and that's where they're going to go. That's looking all pretty tidy, so that's nice. That side there is looking pretty productive, and I've got a heap of carrots over there, which I'm just going to leave. I think they're fine to stay in the ground, and I've got all these ones here, which I will try and think of what to do with them today. Just got one cucumber. It's a peach that's fallen down and a bit bruised, but here's another one that had fallen down and perfect that I'm eating right now. And I'm looking up there at the peach tree, and that's the first time we have ever had peaches. Like, you know, last year we had maybe 2 or 3. This year we haven't got enough really to bottle, I wouldn't say, but we've got enough for our family to eat, so that's exciting. And then I'm going to head down to the very back. Not sure if you can see that there, the apple tree. There's lots of red apples there. And I'm just going to look around for the ones that are on the ground and make a crumble for the kids. Yeah, so once the peaches are done, the apples are done, then it will be feijoa time, and then that will be kind of the end of the fruit, I think. So this is the fruits of this morning's labour. Nothing too exciting, but I don't know, this carrot's pretty good. I'm happy with that harvest there. That's probably about an eighth of the carrots I've got, so if we can live on carrots and they last through the winter, we'll be doing well. Potatoes, pretty disappointing. I reckon I probably planted almost as much as that, so maybe for every potato I planted I got 2. So probably not worth taking up all that garden bed for next year. I might see if I can do them in grow bags though. That might be something that will work a wee bit better, I reckon. Just given that we have, you know, a reasonably small growing space. So nice having a tidy garden though. Just here to get some seedlings, get that winter garden organised, and I guess it's just that feeling of like looking after yourself makes me feel safer. So $15.90 spent for my gardening budget. I've got 2 cauliflowers, 1 broccoli and 1 red cabbage. Need to leave those to harden off for a couple of days, so I'll find a place at home to keep them sheltered but hardened, and then get them planted. Knowing where your money goes and keeping track of every cent is actually really important. And being frugal is not the same as being poor, I guess. And just because you're frugal and you track your money and you take care of it doesn't mean you're going to be tight with it. And it doesn't mean that you don't have enough of it. And I guess that's our situation. I think, you know, that old saying, take care of the pennies and the pounds will look after themselves, is really true. If you know where the small money's going, you're probably going to know where the big money's going to. In uncertain times, building that buffer becomes even more important. I would say do anything that you can to create a bigger gap. Whilst I've always had a focus on working less and kind of living on less, I have actually this week picked up an extra shift at work because I just start to feel like, hey, do you know what? It's a real pain to do an extra day at work, but I am able and it is on offer. So maybe now's the time just to actually do a little bit and create as much of a buffer as is possible for our family, because really we just don't know what's around the corner. I think having a good community around you is really important at all times, but you notice it most in troubled times. I'm really lucky where I live. I'm surrounded actually by elderly people. And the reason why I think that's really lucky is because, well, we're young and fit and healthy, so we can help them if they need it. That's good, I guess, good for them. But for us, we just have neighbours who know what it means to be a neighbour. So like where I grew up, for example, we didn't lock our doors. And if the washing was out and it rained, you'd never come home and find it wet. The next door neighbour would have seen it and gone, oh no, they've left their washing out, it's raining. And they just would have come over the fence and got the washing in and gone and put it inside on your couch or something. I remember being really quite surprised when I left home and moved into a flat and coming home and finding wet washing on the line and just thinking, gosh, what's wrong with these people that are surrounding me? No one came and brought it in. I still hadn't started locking my door at that stage. That was a wee bit later. So I think building community is really important. And the reason I was thinking about this at the moment is because I am making some soup and I'm making a carrot cake. So I'm going to make a carrot soup and I'm going to share that with one neighbour who actually brought over some tomato soup for us that she had made. So I'm going to pop that back in the container that she brought over and deliver that to her. And carrot cake is going to be too big. I'm going to make muffins and a loaf, and there'll be way too much for us. So I'm going to drop that off to two other neighbours so they can have that for their afternoon tea. I think doing these little gestures creates a nice feeling in the neighbourhood, and it lets people know that if they need help, that you're someone that they can come to and ask. And similarly, if you need a hand, you can feel pretty certain that they're going to be happy to help you too. Now, I don't want to sound too melodramatic, right? And I'm not saying that I think there's necessarily going to be a World War III or anything insane. I'm very much hoping that is not, in fact, the case. But I just think in general, it's good to learn how to do things yourself. And I guess if we look back in history to World War II, all the men went away and women all of a sudden had to do a lot of things that we hadn't normally done. So neither my husband nor I would normally do anything to do with plumbing. As you can see here, I'm trying to get this thing off with a knife. I do stop in a minute and actually have a look on YouTube and realize this is not the way to do it. You can just push that silver thing up and it will come off. But I'm still a few minutes away from discovering that at this stage. So I think just learning how to take care of things yourself. I know also here after the earthquakes and for many, many years afterwards, actually it was really hard to get people to come and do things at your house because there was so much work that people didn't want to do a tiny wee job like come and fix your silly cistern that won't stop dripping water. You know, something with the fill valve is not working. This is what I think anyway, and I am determined to investigate and figure it out and fix it myself. If I can't fix it myself, obviously I'll put myself on a plumbing list and eventually someone will come and help me out. But I know it won't be anytime soon. Oh, there we go. I'm almost getting ready to figure out exactly how that works. How does it work? So frustrating, but a great sense of accomplishment when you do manage to find it. So do things yourself, learn to do things yourself. YouTube is such a good resource. If you watched a video a wee while back, I fixed my vacuum cleaner, put in a new trigger. That took me about 8 hours. I found it very difficult, but I did it and that felt amazing. So we have this great resource that we can use, and I would recommend that if you're not a handy person, start practicing now while there's the safety net, because we can't always guarantee that someone is there to help us. And that might be in all sorts of different areas of your life. That might be home maintenance, but it also could be basic healthcare at home. It could be basic gardening. It could be how to take care of animals. You know, there's all sorts of different things that you might have to do that you might otherwise prefer someone else to do. And I reckon now's a really good time to kind of harness that energy to learn. There we go. I finally got it off. I thought I'd just show you guys to prove that I actually managed to do that. Silence. So it's filled up. I can see where the water is now, to this level here. But, so maybe it's a fill valve or something that needs fixing. Like maybe something here. I don't want to pull it because that's the flush and then it will start again. So I'm not going to do any more work on that, if you call this work, but I feel like I've investigated. No one's going to use the toilet because I'm just going to leave all that there, which reminds everybody that this is not a functioning toilet and they can use the other toilet. And tomorrow I'm going to have a try at fixing this. Develop some analog hobbies. This is actually my Christmas puzzle. It was a present from my son, and I normally do this over the Christmas holidays, but straight after Christmas I had a couple of days of work. The industry I'm in, we work all the time, so there's no public holidays per se. So I started this and I just haven't got very far. I started it on Christmas Day and this is pretty much where I'm at all that time later. So we went away and I don't feel like my feet have really touched the ground. If I haven't been working, I've been at the kids' sports activities. So it's been a really full-on summer, but I'm ready to get back into it. Now, the reason I say analog hobbies is because it's really important, I think, to just detox from this crazy digital world. Like, I'm in it as much as everybody else. Life is online for a big portion of it. But just having something you can do that keeps you grounded, that doesn't require any electricity, it doesn't require any tech, it doesn't require you to pay a bill. It just requires you to sit down, take some time, have a cup of tea, and find the next puzzle piece. Easier said than done, I know. Puzzles are not my thing at all. I love them, but I'm not very good at them. So I will be here. You know, this will take me more than a weekend, even if I dedicated real time to it. So I'll encourage my kids to come and help me, especially when I get to those yellow bits. I think also in a world of so many information sources where you don't really know where to look, you just are kind of bombarded with so much information and it's difficult to know what's true, even when it comes from a source which previously you might have thought was considered trusted. So I think maybe getting back to those history books, read through what's happened in the past, because, they say the best predictor of future behaviour is past behaviour. So instead of relying on what someone tells you, let's have a look and see what's happened before and use that as a lesson and use that as a way forward for our learnings and to kind of help us navigate these difficult times. I came here today for a bit of a forage. I thought I would be able to get some elderberries. I thought a couple of plastic bags, secateurs and a fork, because I always like to get them off while I'm here rather than take them home. But I think I might just be a little bit early. Either that or they've all gone. I can see a tree. I might just take you over there actually. I'll leave those things there. There are a couple of trees with berries, but they look different from normal, and that might just be because they're not ripe. No, it's because they're in fact not actually elderberries. This is what elderberries look like. I came here was because I wanted to talk about keeping well and keeping your family well. And That's really important in difficult times, because you cannot guarantee that there's someone there to help you again. It's that, we've got to look after ourselves, don't we? And then when things are really bad, of course, then go to the hospital. But if things aren't going well for a country, there's really no guarantee that you're going to be able to get in. I mean, it's not that long ago that there was COVID. Now, in New Zealand, we were actually fine, and I guess the pressures on our health system were a lot less than many other places. But for example, if you were in Spain or Italy or the UK, sometimes those beds were taken, so you might not be able to get in to get the help that you need. But I think with health, there's so many things we can do before we get to the hospital stage, right? There are a lot of things we can do, and a lot of knowledge that's been lost over the years about how to keep ourselves healthy, about how to treat minor ailments. I was looking for the elderberries because I wanted to make elderberry syrup. I always make elderberry wine. That's for fun. I make that in November and then drink it on Christmas Day with my family, not just me. Other people drink it as well. It's delicious. But the elderberries I make a syrup out of. And it's funny being here alone, because normally it's something my kids would have liked to do with me. But the state of these trees just here, there's a lot of dead trees. I don't know if it's been sprayed or what it is, but it's not looking good. And that's something my family really relies on. We have elderberry syrup every year, and that is something that keeps us healthy throughout winter. So I don't know I just don't know what's going on there. So I guess all that to say, we just can't predict the future. We can't predict that there's this big ambulance at the end of the cliff waiting for us to scoop us up and make us well and make us better. But that we all kind of have this collective responsibility, I think, to do what we can. And what we can might be, just having the lemon honey drink, going for walks, making sure, we keep our bodies clean, that when we have something small, we do something about it. If we are pre-diabetic, for example, cut out the sugar and go for the runs. Like, there are so many things we can do for ourselves prior to needing the big interventions. And in troubled times, when resources are scarce, when things are expensive, that might be exactly what we need to do. There was actually a really cool video from a group called Artist as Family that I saw recently, and the guy from that family, his name is Patrick, he had sutured up his own eye wound. And I was very impressed with that, because that is a skill that has been lost at the household level, but something I reckon 50 years ago in New Zealand, a lot of people would have been able to suture up a minor wound. And that could be a little bit because of our farming background, because of our, isolated areas of New Zealand where people live, that you're not going to drive, for hours and hours to get 4 sutures put in. So mum would do it, or possibly even dad. I'm sure dad was suturing up animals, for example, on the farm. So I think some of these skills that we've lost at a household level will need to come back, and anything you can do, anything you can learn, especially natural medicine, I think is very, very worthwhile in these times. But for me, it will not be elderberry syrup today. Keep moving. Those were most definitely not elderberries. I have come home and my neighbour across the road has an elderberry tree, and they're all completely gone. So I don't know what those other things were, but they're not elderberries. So I went next door to another neighbour who has a good lemon tree and just said, can I have a couple of lemons, please, for making some lemon honey drinks. So that won't last as long, obviously, as elderberry syrup, because that can be used all winter. But lemons are also good, and that will help my son with his cold at the moment. and I'll have to be thinking a little bit further ahead next year. I think because I spent so much time away over the summer, I just wasn't doing the walking around the area to see when they were ready. So that's it for me. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you guys have a really cool week. Turn off the telly, turn off YouTube if it's making you feel uncomfortable. That's a wee bit of what I'm going to do. Less news is definitely a better thing for me at the moment, and just concentrate on getting the things done that improve life. So for me, it's the garden. I'm going to pick up a couple of extra shifts if I can, and spend plenty of time with my family. Hopefully finish that puzzle, and I reckon I'll be feeling a whole heap better. That's it for me. Take care, and I look forward to catching you next time. Bye for now.